welcome to this week's FriBaT, Friday Beers and Tools. I hope to find you well wherever you are in the world, and let's get stuck straight into it. This week's beer is the Fat Yak, also part of the Yak range. If you remember from last week, I reviewed one of the Yak range, and the Fat Yak is one of my favourite drinking beers. Cheers for Friday. Oh yeah, just as I remember it. Fat Yak. It's even better out of the tap at a pub, but it's bloody nice out of a bottle as well. What can I tell you about the Fat Yak? As I mentioned last week, the Fat Yak is from the same Yak family. There's probably about 6 different versions. Fat Yak. It comes from the Matilda Bay Brewing Company in Australia, which is owned and is part of the much larger conglomerate of Carlton United Breweries, one of the biggest brewers in Australia. Oh, that's a nice beer. It is probably what I would describe a very fruity pale ale. I do like a nice pale ale, and as I said, this is one of my favourites. It's certainly on the list when I go to the pub to have a beer, have a meal. It is a boutique beer, so it's dearer than your average everyday beers, but it's a bloody nice beer. 340 ml this size, and it makes 1.3 standard drinks. Last week the Pacific Ale was, what was it called? The Wild Yak was 1.1 standard drinks. This one's 1.3 standard drinks because it is 4.7% alcohol. Very nice beer. Try it out. All right, this week we're going to start off with an electronic tool. Probably I should rename this part of the segment the Cheap and Chinese tool. This week we're going to be reviewing a 3-in-1 USB Endoscope. These are particularly handy in the garage when you're doing various different jobs, to be able to look into cylinders, into engine bays, when you lose a 10mm socket somewhere, as you invariably do. And they're not a dear item. They're a very handy little addition to your toolkit, because it certainly gives you a much closer view of things that you can't normally see, or would have to disassemble a lot further to be able to see. How does it work? Tiny little camera in the end here, surrounded by LED lights, and it has a resolution, claimed resolution of 1600 by 1200p, so it's classed as a 1200p camera. It has an 8mm focal length from the end, so you have very, very short depth of field. It is waterproof. This particular one comes with 2 meters of semi-rigid cable, and I prefer that. I've had the fully flexible cable, which is just, you know, your ordinary run-of-the-mill cable. I've had them before, and these are probably a little bit easier to direct into where you want them to go because of the semi-rigidity of this cable. The little controller here varies the amount of light coming out of the LEDs, because often, although it's auto exposure, often when you're close to something you'll get too much light, and actually the white balance is fairly flooded with light, so this enables you to turn the light output up and down. As I said, 1600 by 1200p, and They do come up to, I believe, 10 meters in length. Obviously you pay extra for the longer cable. The frame rate on these little cameras is 30 frames per second, and as I mentioned, has an LED light in the end. It has a viewing angle of 70 degrees, so that's pretty good for a tiny little camera, and certainly where you're going to be shoving it, you don't want a really wide angle, you want a fairly focused view. The kit also comes with a little bottle, a plastic bottle, with 3 attachments that screw onto the end. The first one, being probably one of the most useful ones, is a hook. The second one, to retrieve that missing 10mm socket, has a magnet on the end. And the third one has a tiny little mirror. So it screws in the end, enables you to see sort of right angles to the camera, and sometimes quite handy. Alright, let's put it on the tablet and show you what it looks like. Okay, I've hooked it up to my my Windows tablet here, and I'll show you, hopefully show you how, yes, I'm missing a key on my tablet. The LEDs are turned right down there. Yeah, hi. How you going? Where are we? Here we are. Doesn't look like much from that because the focal length is way up. But let's just turn the LEDs up. Much brighter there, you can see. Really, really bright. And as you can see, as you get closer to things, you get a lot more reflection. So that's why it's handy to have the ability to turn the light down. Right down, that's pretty much off, and just on dim. So as you can see, very handy for getting into tight places and being able to find things and inspect cylinder bores and things like that. Right. Rightio, so what else can I tell you about the USB Endoscope? It retails in Australia for anywhere between $28 and $38. There are lower, be very careful when you're ordering, there are lower resolution cameras on the market that are much cheaper. I would recommend get the best one that you can afford, because the lower resolution ones are pretty crappy. Comes with a multi USB connection, so you've got your standard USB, it's got the micro USB, and then it adapts to a USB-C, which happens to be my tablet and my Android phone take. So I can use it on my phone when I'm working on the car or on the shed. So, what do I give the 3-in-1 Type-C Android PC endoscope? Doesn't work with Apple. Must point that out. You can get specific ones for Apple, but this one is designed for Android. What do I give it? This is a very, very cheap addition to your kit, and certainly I think is worth the $28 if you can get it for that price. Value for money, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 beers. And for usability, if you get the highest resolution that you can get, there may actually be a slightly higher one now, I'm not sure. I've owned this one for probably 2 years, 18 months, 2 years now. For usability, I will also give it a 5 out of 5 beers. A very handy little piece of cheap and cheerful Chinese gear to add to your kit. Rightio, second tool for this week. I'm reviewing a Kincrome Flex Tool Gear Spanner. Kincrome is an Australian brand, so it won't be familiar to those of you in the States or other parts of the world. I'm not sure if it's in New Zealand, maybe somebody can leave me a comment. But Kincrome followed Sidchrome Tools, which was an old, very old brand in Australia. Although it's an Australian company, these are made in Taiwan. However, Kincrome have pretty high standards for their tool manufacture, so they're made to a very high standard in Taiwan, as are most tools nowadays. The kit comes in this holder, I guess you'd call it. I might point out this isn't a discontinued item now. It's been replaced by a different one. This kit is a K030025. It has been replaced by a K3700 kit. This is a 7-piece kit, whereas the replacement kit, which of course I assume is the same sort of quality, has an extra spanner, an 18mm. This kit, being a 7-piece kit, comes with a 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 17 and 19 millimeters. I'm not sure if Kincrome do an imperial or a, as Americans call it, standard. Certainly not standard for us, we work in metric kit, but a very, very nice little kit. I've owned this kit for probably 5 years now and put it through some hell. I look after my tools, so that's why it's not they're not beaten up and damaged, but the finish on them is superb. All Kincrome comes with the high gloss chrome finish. The one thing I like about the Kincrome ones, as opposed to a lot of the flex head ratchets, which are normally just loose ratchets like that, is they have a little locking pin on the Kincrome, so you can actually lock it in different positions. I can't remember how many, I didn't write that down, but that is very handy. Has the ratchet in the end and is only a 5-degree ratchet movement, so again, very, very small movement to be able to ratchet in small spaces. Very strong, have not broken one. They are pretty incredible tools. They're not designed for breaking really tough bolts and nuts that are stuck in position, but certainly to get into tight spaces, you know, use a normal ring open ender for that, or a socket if you can get onto it. My American friends will, of course, I'm talking about this as a spanner. You call it a wrench in the States, we call them spanners. This is commonly known as a ring open ender, or and in this case a ring open ender ratchet. What else can I tell you? Push button lock, said that. Kincrome have made a pretty good name for themselves in Australia as a very reasonably priced tool. They actually have a lifetime guarantee, which is very similar to Snap-on and the other bigger brands in the States, if they're used for what they're supposed to be used for. So in other words, this isn't a hammer, it's a spanner. And I actually have never broken a Kincrome spanner. The specifications, the openings are very accurate on Kincrome gear, and I certainly can't justify as a home mechanic lashing out on Snap-on prices. This particular kit, I think from memory, was under $100 when I bought it, but as I said, that's probably 5 or 6 years ago now, and they have copped some abuse. The replacement kit, the K3700, I'll put a photo up here or here, can't remember which way I'll put it. As I said, is an 8-piece kit, the replacement kit, and you can find them for about $149 for that kit. I do sometimes go wanting for a few more sizes. I have bought some cheaper ratcheting end rings that aren't as good quality. for once-off jobs of specific sizes, getting into certain areas where I can't get a normal spanner or a socket into, and the ratcheting is really handy in those areas. I would love to get more of these, but I don't think Kincrome sell the individual spanner sizes individually. They only come as this kit, so I don't think there's actually any in-between sizes, although having said that, of course the replacement for this discontinued has one extra, which is 18mm. 18mm is not exactly a common size either though. These are the most common sizes for metric spanners. Very handy to add to your kit, and I can certainly recommend Kincrome. Of the last few years, I've been buying a fair bit of gear wrench stuff, and of course Americans will be familiar with gear wrench. They're fairly new to the Australian market. Kincrome's been around for a long time, and it is an Aussie company made in Taiwan to Aussie specs. What can I tell you about the Flex Lock gear spanners set? Look, for value for money, for the replacement kit of 8 spanners for $149, I reckon that's a solid 5 out of 5 beers for value. For usability, these are also pretty much invaluable in your kit. I give it a 5 out of 5 beers for usability or usefulness. They've saved me a lot of times. As I said, sometimes I'll go wanting for an in-between size, but rarely. These are the common sizes in metric gear. So yeah, 5 out of 5 on both counts. $149. It's still pretty good value for eight spanners than the new ones. So yeah, I recommend this and other Kincrome gear. I've got quite a fair bit of Kincrome sockets and ratchets, etc. Alrighty, well that wraps up this week's FriBaT, another relatively short one. I'm going to try and pump out a bit more content over the next couple of weeks as the coronavirus starts locking us down. Some of you may have seen my Instagram post from a couple of weeks ago where my wife went out and bought me my supplies of beer to keep me going if I go into lockdown, so I'll be okay for at least a couple of weeks in lockdown. Again, I hope things are good where you are. I hope things are improving and that you're well. Please stay safe out there. Don't lose hope. Don't be sad. Be happy. It's going to get better. And thanks for watching. Make sure you like, share and subscribe as per usual. And look forward to seeing you again soon. Cheers.